Hi everyone, this is Garrity Tonicourt. Welcome to my Learn to Create More Than a Snapshot image critique session. This session is usually for photographers in my Learn to Create More Than a Snapshot class, and you can find more about that at morethanasnapshot.com. So we're going to get to the critiques soon, but we're going to do something a little different this week. There was a short week, not very many images to critique, and I happened to notice that the Wildlife Photographer of the Year for 2015 was announced. And so I thought it would be cool to look at these images. It's always great to look at great images, and it gives you good inspiration for your own photography. So the winner was the Canadian amateur photographer Don Gutowski, and this was his picture of the foxes, and it's a very beautiful image, except for the carnage on on the fox here. But what's very interesting about it is that they're sort of blaming global warming for this because foxes, the red foxes, are moving up into the white foxes' territory and preying on them. Because of the warmer temperatures, they're moving north, and I'm sure it was a tough picture to take in the cold and to get it to look this good. And it's an interesting image. When you're looking to capture someone's attention and to tell a story, this kind of image is definitely going to do that. All right, then they go on to the young wildlife photographer of the year, 11 to 14-year-old. And this is a great image, especially for a young photographer. Here we have a lek of birds. A lek is when the males get together and compete for breeding ground. And he caught a nice sharp image, nice out of focus background, interesting birds surrounding the fight. He's got the height of the action. Very well done. Great job. And this image by another young photographer, age 15 to 17, the flight of the Scarlet Ibis. And this is a really cool image, and I think because of the colors, the red and the blue, and especially being split in half, with part of the image being the blue sky and part being the sand, with the contrasting red color, really stands out and really looks cool. Then we have the bird winner. To me, this photo is a little less exciting, but you can tell that it's beautifully done. The background is really nicely out of focus. The birds are in the height of action. So another really nice image. This is one of my favorites, just because it's something you don't see very often. The amphibian and reptile winner. And it's just very cool, very interesting to see. I guess it is a newt, hangs motionless on the surface of a stream. And you see the reflection of the trees, and notice how all the trees seem to be pointing to the newt. So they're like leading lines, bringing your eye to the newt. Very cool image. This one was another one of my favorites, the underwater winner. And it's gulping up the sardines. Notice that the whale is in the third of the frame, and it's balanced by the sardines here. Also, the light is really beautiful. We see light on the sardines here, just enough to highlight them, and we have some shadow. And of course, the light is nice on the side of the whale. And I think what's also really impactful about this image is it seems like the photographer had to be pretty close to this whale. And, it almost seems like if he was in the wrong place, he could have gotten gulped up with the sardines. This one is from the Sky winner, The Art of the Algae, and I think that this is a really cool image just because it's a cool pattern made by algae. It's something you don't see every day. The colors are wonderful. The pattern is great. That's another one of my favorites. Here we have the urban winner, Shadow Walker. And this one I really love because of its creativity. Instead of seeing the actual animal, you're seeing the shadow of the fox on the wall. It's really cool. And seeing the night sky in the image is kind of nice. It's just a really creative image and a great job. This one is an Impressionist winner. Looks like it may even be part photograph. This looks very photographic, and part painting, so it's really nice. This one is the Photojournalist Award, and it's about these lions and tigers in China that are abused. They take off their claws and they take out their teeth and they keep them in tiny cages, and it's really, you can see that the lions and tigers, they just don't look happy. So it's a very important photojournalistic type of an image. I love to see these images, and they have the finalists so we can see what other ones were in the running. And this one, this is fantastic. I'm surprised this one wasn't a winner. The battling Komodo dragons. You can even see the dirt flying around. Very cool image. Here we have a gorilla that is being worked on by some workers, and you can see what's cool too is the other gorilla back here is watching, probably worried about its friend or mate. The shark surfer, just the proximity of the shark to the surfer is pretty cool. This one to me seems a bit more like a landscape with a very small bird. It's a beautiful scene. Doesn't seem like much of a wildlife image, but wow, I really like this one. Love the reflections of the birds in the water and the flying birds in the background. And that would have been a tough choice. I really like that one as well. This is just very cool. We have the eye contact between what looks like a crow. It says that the California ground squirrel is fended off from a water dish by a gull at the beach at Morro Bay in California. So a very cool interaction. Great nature story. I love snow scenes. And here you can see the hare covered in snow. This is just very strange. Nesting on this pile of trash. I don't know what it is. Old car. White storks nesting on a sculpture outside of Bostel, whatever, museum in Spain. It's just a very cool image because it's so wacky and creative. Oh, wow. This one has got some nice impact to it. The way everything glows, and it almost looks like you see the little brain up here. It says it's a juvenile octopus measuring about 2 centimeters across. It swims in the deep water off the coast of Tahiti, French Polynesia. Its transparent body reveals internal organs and chromatophores on its tentacles. So it makes for a very cool image. And you gotta love the bulging, colorful eyes too. Oh, that's a really nice image. Notice the use of framing here around the elephant in the background and the zebra. And so your eye just keeps getting drawn in. Very nice stuff. I love to see the Wildlife Photographer of the Year photos. Alright, so let's get to a few that we have from our class. So here we have one where it is a lighthouse shot, and lighthouses are shot very frequently, obviously. So the thing that I really like that the photographer did in this case is went and looked for a very interesting point of view, and really kind of almost split the frame with the diagonal line here, and then chose to put the lighthouse in the third of the frame, but more at an extreme third of the frame. It's an interesting composition. I think the one thing I would say is that there's not much other interest other than the interesting composition, though. The sky is kind of boring, and the light is not very exciting on the lighthouse or on the rocks. But I think you did the most with what you could in the scene that you had. The one thing that bothers me is this little out of focus rock here, so I would find some way of either cloning it out or cropping it out would be the easier thing to do. And you can keep roughly your same composition. It just doesn't have that little rock in the corner. Also, when you have some sort of a line that comes down near a corner, you did this right and very well. Notice that the line does not end directly in the corner. That would be a problem if it did. But you did a good job and you kept it out of the corner on both the top and the bottom. Here we have a flower image, and what I like about it is there is nice sharpness in the flower. It's a nice flower, and it has good depth of field down into the pistil. We have nice detail on the stem. You can see all the little hairs. So you did good with the exposure. You did well with the focusing. And I guess my only critiques are that we see probably too much. This top part I don't think is really adding to your image. And then it brings in, we can see more of these distracting highlights and distracting things in the background. So let's see what happens if we give it a crop. Could crop it down into this sort of shape. Now we're a little more focused on the flower. The flower's in the third. And I would also probably darken the background. So, I need the brush tool. I'll just reset everything. I'll pull down the exposure, and I'll do it a lot so we can see what's going on. And I'll just paint over the background. Try to darken that down. Just doing it quick here, so I'll probably miss. Even this leaf we can darken down a bit. This leaf is also competing with our subject, so I would darken that one down a bit. Alright. So now that helps to hold our interest on the flower. We can figure out exactly just how dark we want it to go. Maybe about a stop or so. While we have this already painted in, we can also take the clarity down a bit. It doesn't need to be sharp. And probably increase the noise reduction a bit, because we don't need to have noise in that part of the picture. Alright, let's shut that off. This is such a low resolution file, I can't zoom in on it anymore, but now we might also think of adding some highlights. So I'll go back to the brush, and this time I'll bump it up just a small amount, maybe a third of a stop, and find some spots here that we want to highlight. Maybe make the brush a little smaller to highlight these sections. Let's see if we bring that up a bit. Alright. So now, let's finish that off. Take a look at the before and after. And it adds a bit more contrast to the image. See, this one looks a little bit more dull. This one's got a little bit of pop to it. Alright. Here we have, I think that is the sun. Must be behind a lot of clouds to be able to get a dark exposure like that. We got some silhouetted trees. It's an interesting shot. It's something you don't see all the time. So, I'm not sure we need so much of the left tree. This might be a little more balanced. Now I think I like it a bit better. And since this is a silhouette, there's no detail anyway. Let's see what happens if we bring the blacks down a bit more. Alright, nope. These are low resolution JPEGs, so the edits that I'm trying to make are not really going to take. We can try to bring up the midtones a little. Something like that. Let's see. Yeah, I think that works. Alright, here we had a new student with their self-portrait. And I like how you tried to simplify your background. But let's simplify it a little bit more, because we don't need to see this white sky up here. So if we can crop in, I would like to crop in so I don't see any of the background other than the fence. But I need a little bit of headroom. So we'll have to do something like that. You are in the third of the frame, which is good. We do have, you know, you're balanced a little bit by this flower, so maybe we could get away with this composition. But we could probably even better to crop it so that it's just you as the center of attention. And I like what you did here. You're holding a flower, and you're in focus, and the exposure looks good. Just watch your framing. You cut off half of your foot here in the front. But good job for your first portrait, in our class anyway. So I'll pump up maybe the exposure just a little bit. And I think that looks pretty good. So good job. Welcome to the class. And that is our last picture for this week. So submit some more pictures, and maybe next week we'll be back with some more image critiques. Again, this has been Gary D. Tonicourt from morethanasnapshot.com.